Have you ever heard a catchy saying and wonder where it came from? There are some unique and very old sayings that we just don't hear anymore. Do you know the meaning of these forgotten sayings? This saying means those who have nothing to contribute make the most noise. That's one of those old sayings that hits close to home, right? It's all about making noise when there's nothing to show. See, when a wagon's loaded with goods, it moves along quietly, doing its job without a fuss. But take away the cargo and suddenly every bump, every jostle. It's like the wagon shouting, "Look at me, I'm here." This saying comes from the more elaborate form of nervous as a cat. The implication is that the cat is afraid of its tail being caught underneath a rocker. This saying is a variation of, "Before you judge a man, walk a mile in his shoes." It's a variation made famous by Johnny Carson and other comedians. In effect, it is a reminder to practice empathy. While long credited as a Native American saying replacing the word shoes with moccasins, the saying may also be derived from a Mary Lamthorpe poem published in 1895. This phrase isn't used much anymore, perhaps because lambs aren't as visible in our urban society as they were in the agrarian 19th century when the expression originated. The first recorded usage seems to have been by Richard Barham in the Ingoldsby Legend in 1840. The phrase refers to the quickness of a lamb's tail wagging, which is both rapid and charming. It is a playful and imaginative way to convey the idea of doing something quickly. This old saying is conveying the idea of ordinary or unremarkable, as in the show was all right but nothing to write home about. This saying originated in the late 1800s, possibly among troops stationed far from home, and became widespread during World War I. This saying is like also between you, me, and the bedpost. It's an expression used to tell someone that what you're about to say should be kept a secret. Also between you, me, and the lamppost, conveying the idea of something about to be told in strict confidence. This phrase usually announces the imminent divulgence of gossip. It is found in Charles Dickens's novel Nicholas Nickleby, published in 1839. Regardless of origin, this saying generally means and implies that if something is not very good to begin with, you cannot do much of value with it. The old phrase, "as happy as a clam," is derived from the full phrase, "happy as a clam at high tide." Clams are collected during the low tide. During the high tides, they are safe from fishermen. It means to be happy with your circumstances. One of the earliest recordings of this saying in English appears in James Sandford's Garden of Pleasure, 1573. "He that goeth to bed with dogs ariseth with fleas." It has consistently appeared in literature and proverb collections down through the centuries. The quote has the almost universally agreed upon meaning: you should be cautious of the company you keep. Associating with those of low reputation may not only lower your own, but also lead you astray by the faulty assumptions, premises, and data of the unscrupulous. This saying meant that people worked from the time they cannot see in the morning until the time they can't see at night. Putting socks on a rooster is like herding cats, a difficult task that won't pay off. It's similar to hotter than socks on a Jersey Giant, which means that it's rare and hard to pull off and accomplish. As hens do not possess teeth, the implication is that something is rare to the point of non-existence. The phrase was originally a U.S. colloquialism, dating from the mid-19th century. "Bless your heart" is a phrase common to the southern United States. The phrase has multiple meanings and is used to express genuine sympathy, but sometimes as an insult that conveys condescension, derision, or contempt. It may also be spoken as a precursor to an insult to mitigate its severity. This old saying can be found in two places in history. First, in the practice of capturing the heads of guillotine victims in a basket, with the presumption being that these criminals would go straight to hell for their crimes. It is also reported that in the 19th century, the phrase was associated with the American gold rush of the 1840s, where men were lowered by hand in baskets down mining shafts to set explosives, which could have deadly consequences. This phrase means that you act badly toward the person who is helping or has helped you. When you bite the hand that feeds you, you're being ungrateful. Used about 600 BC by the Greek poet Sappho, this metaphor of a dog biting its master was first recorded in English in the 1700s. This old saying is often used to describe how children tend to inherit the characteristics of their parents. In 1839, Ralph Waldo Emerson was credited with making the first known usage of the phrase in the United States. However, an old German proverb inspired him, and its English translation would be, "As men say, the apple never falls far from the stem. But when the apple hits the ground, it can roll." This saying is one of the oldest proverbs in the English language. It was first recorded in Old English homilies, written sometime around 1175. This old saying means you can only offer the person suitable advice or show her or him an opportunity, but you cannot make the person follow the advice or seize the opportunity, because a person does not do anything unless she or he really wants to. This old saying originated in North America. It was first used around 1860 and comes from the old-fashioned game of marbles. A player shooting a marble would place a knuckle on the floor or ground to get in the proper position to start. Likewise, someone getting started on a serious task needs to knuckle down. This saying generally means estimating based on a general guideline instead of exact measurements. It's often known or called the rule of thumb. This phrase comes from an old English law, suggesting that a man could use a stick to discipline his wife as long as the stick was no thicker than his thumb. Get your copy today. Plus, make memories with families and friends with the included Old Sayings Party Game.